so I'm gonna go ahead and grab my watercolor brush, and you know, whatever you have at home is fine. I have kind of 3 different sizes. I have a small, a medium, and a larger one. Yeah, so I'm actually going to use my medium-sized one, and I'm going to start with what's in the background first. Okay, typically with watercolors, that's kind of a good rule of thumb, is to start what's in the background first, and then also to start very lightly, right? Start painting very lightly. So I have a nice, actually have a nice blue in my set here that I'm going to use. Now, rarely do I take this brush and stick it in the color here and then go straight to the paper. I always test it out to make sure I know how dark or light it's going to be. Okay, so again, if you don't have a brush like this, you're going to dip your brush in the water and then you're going to grab your color. But since mine already has water in it, I don't need to do that. Okay, so I kind of swirl it around on my tray here, and as dark as it looks on the tray, that's pretty much the same lightness or darkness that's going to be on the paper. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with that, and with this type of brush, if you press down harder, more water will come out, or you can squeeze it and more water will come out, and then you can make your color lighter. Okay, so I'm going to start kind of up here in the corner. And again, I'm starting very, very light. I don't know if you can see, I think you can see that a little bit there. But I'm just going to kind of put that light blue where the edge of those trees are, right? And stuff that's in the background, it looks a little more blurry. It should look a little bit more blurry in your artwork, right? Because we want to give that sense of depth that what's in the background is further away, right? And when our eye focuses on something in nature that's close up, everything else in the background is not going to be in focus. Okay, so we want to give that same illusion on our artwork. Okay, so really, really light blue, and from what you guys are seeing, it probably looks like my paper is just wet, but it's actually a very, very, very light blue. Let me see if I can bring it closer. There we go, you can see a little bit. See, it's a very, very light blue. Okay. All right, and so then I can kind of put that generally where I see it. Again, I'm not going for completely photorealistic. I want to make it an original too. Okay, especially since this isn't my own photo. I did get permission from my cousin to use the photo, but I want to add a little bit of my own artist touch to it. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go on to the trees that are in the background. Now, prior to painting, right, I made this kind of sketchy line of where those, let me see if I can get it in the camera. There. Yeah, where those Indian paintbrushes are in the background. So I know where to stop with my background line of trees. Okay, so I have a couple of different greens in my palette here. I apologize, I keep rubbing my nose. It itches. I'm trying not to touch my face, right? Don't want that. Don't want the Rona. My nose itches though. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with kind of a medium green. Now you could start with a lighter green if you want to. But that's kind of what I see down here is kind of a medium green. So that's what I'm going to go with. Now this is kind of a cooler green. And when I say cooler green, that means there's more blue tone. So it almost looks more turquoise. And so I could add some of this lime green to it. That changes the color. You could add a little bit of yellow to lighten it up. Totally up to you. Yeah. All right. So nice light green. And I'm just going to kind of go with the direction that I see the trees going, right? I know that the trees are going up and down, right? From the ground up to the sky. And so that's what I'm going to kind of do with my line. So notice I'm not painting individual trees because when I look at it, it looks just kind of like a cluster of green. Now when you're doing this, be careful not to touch the background blue. If you already did, it's not a big deal. Okay, but you don't want to touch that blue in the background if it's still wet, because then your color is going to bleed into your sky. Okay, so you just want to make sure that you're being aware of that. So I'm just kind of moving my color around, and my color kind of fades in some areas. I'm just going with it. Kind of going around, and here's where I want to kind of be careful because there's my Bluebonnet. So I just want to leave kind of a white shape of where my Bluebonnet is going to be. That's right. Remember, with watercolor, you can't really go back over and paint over something if it's really, really dark. Yeah, because watercolor is transparent. And I want you to notice also, as I'm painting, I'm not really filling it in a solid color. That's where a lot of people end up kind of getting frustrated with watercolors, because they try to just fill it in. They treat it like a coloring book. You just fill it in with one color. And really, if you leave some white spaces, you leave some areas that are lighter and darker, it automatically gives it depth and interest, and makes your piece look more realistic, yeah, or interesting. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Now I noticed that this one little tree here on the left is a very light green. I'm just gonna kind of leave that white area, that light green color, right? And I'm leaving it kind of real splotchy, but I feel like even what I have on there right now, even though this is not anywhere near being complete, right? Even that looks more like realistic trees in the background than trying to draw or paint individual trees, right? Oops. Sorry, I hit my camera. We're good. Everything's all good. It's all good. All right. Oh, now I just did a big no-no. I stuck my brush that had green on it straight into my yellow. Shame on me. But I'm just gonna get some more water. So if that happens, if your colors start to get muddy or start to change, you can always get the surface of it wet, and then just get a little sponge or a little towel and wipe the surface off, and it'll reveal the clean color underneath. Okay, so right here I'm using a very, very light yellow. And if you guys are having trouble like seeing the colors, just let me know. I can't really zoom in too much more to my painting right now. I'm supposed to be getting my boom for my webcam in the mail today, and so when I get that in, I'll be able to grab my webcam and pull it down if I want to focus on something. But right now, this is as focused as it's gonna get. So little improvements as I'm learning this whole live streaming business. All right, so I'm just adding a little bit of this light green here and there. All right, still a good rule of thumb when painting anything, or painting trees, is your trees are typically going to be lighter where the sun is hitting it, and darker where the sun is not hitting it as much. So now that my blue is dry, I can go through and kind of touch the edge of my blue, right, without my color messing up. All right, so see, I have, I know I said hi to Kathy and Kathy's mom and the boys and everybody else in the house that might be watching. I said hi to Avery. If there's anybody else painting with me that I didn't say hi to, tell me hi in the comments. I'd like to know you're here. See who all's here with me. Hopefully your comment will show up, since I think I fixed my comment preferences, since Facebook thought it knew what I wanted. All right, so I have some dark green here. And so I'm going to start adding just a little bit of that in. Now, I'm adding this dark green in, and that's okay with me if some of my tree area is still wet, right? Because the colors are kind of blended and mixed together back there. And so if my greens mix, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to me. Yeah, because they're already kind of blurred and mixed, and I might do that on purpose in some of these areas, but I still want you to notice I'm still leaving some areas light. There's some areas that there's still like white paper showing through, and that's okay. Okay. Now there's kind of this little area here, this branch. It's coming up, and I'm just kind of lightly kind of tapping my brush on the surface. That's how I'm getting these nice, what I feel are nice tree textures. Okay. And again, my colors are still maybe lighter than what you see in the photo, and I do that on purpose. I keep everything really light at the beginning, and then I slowly build up my color. Okay, that's a nice little trick that I learned in college that I didn't know before about watercolor. I had an awesome watercolor teacher in college. 2 classes I took in college that I dreaded taking were printmaking and watercolor. But I took those 2 classes because I knew I wanted to teach art. And I knew that if I was going to teach other people how to do this, I better improve my skills and learn how to do it. Yeah. So I took those 2 classes, and I got lucky and got a really awesome watercolor teacher. And that's one thing that he taught us, is to leave white. Uh-oh. Sorry. I got to turn my phone on silent. Leave white around your areas that you're painting, right? That way you can work quicker and your areas aren't touching each other. I might grab a little bit of brown. A little bit of brown with that green, and that'll make my green even darker, like what I see over here. Okay, so he said to leave white in areas because it gives the impression that there's light that's shining through, okay, which is good when you're painting anything in nature. Right. And then to also make sure that everything is very light at the beginning. Okay, make sure everything is very, very light, because it's so much easier to start light and work your way darker than go too dark and then you're not able to go back. Okay. So what I'm doing here with the trays, I'm just kind of mixing a variety of greens as I see them. And that's kind of how I work as an artist and as a watercolor artist. Just kind of as I move around the piece of art, I kind of mix my colors as I see them in the area that I'm working. Okay. So you might be the type of person where you want to mix everything first, like get a good variety of colors and then go from there. And that's fine. You are your own artist. You do you. You do what you feel is best. All right. Now, if it ends up getting like a little bit too textured, like in some of these areas here, it's just kind of a big green blur, big green blob, then you can just add a little more water. So as I take my brush, if I put it more to the side, it releases more water from the brush. And so then I'm able to kind of spread everything out and blur everything out a little bit. Okay. All right, let me grab a little more of that blue also. I'm going to make a couple areas here, a little bit too wet, a couple areas here, darker. It's like there's little clouds in there, and fluffy clouds. You guys have seen Cars 3. That's where that's coming from. I'm filled with all sorts of movie quotes and TV quotes. So if you hear something come out of me and I laugh at myself, that's probably what it is. We say that one a lot. I'm a fluffy cloud. I'm a fluffy cloud. I'm a fluffy cloud. All right, so a little bit more darkness around around this tree, right? So I'm making it darker around the tree so that the tree itself looks lighter, and then I might add some little dark areas inside the tree too, right? So I'm just kind of blurring everything out, making everything blend nicely. Now, a lot of times what I will do too, okay, because there is still a little part of me that likes a little perfection in my artwork, even in my watercolor. Okay, I'll go through with either water-soluble colored pencils or regular Prismacolor colored pencils, and I'll do drawing on top of what I've done with watercolor. So that's probably what I will end up doing, especially with this lighter tree. That's still something I'm working on with watercolor, right? Is things in the background, making sure that they look blurred. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna leave it like that, even though it's not as dark as what we see in the picture. Again, sometimes you just gotta let it dry and then paint another layer on top once it's dry. Okay. So now I'm gonna move on to my greenery and my bluebonnet. So I think I'm actually gonna go ahead and paint the bluebonnet and the Indian paintbrushes, the little orange flowers. I'm gonna paint those next, and then I'm gonna do some of the green around it. That way I can give this in the background time to dry. Okay. So with my bluebonnet, I actually have a blue in my palette that is very, very close to that bluebonnet color. It's a nice deep blue, almost like an indigo blue. And if you look at some bluebonnets, I mean, they're blue, but they do have some indigo in them also. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you guys honestly, I haven't done much of my own artwork lately. I've done a little bit here and there with being off. I've done some organizing and some cleaning, and so I haven't done a lot of my own art, and so I'm a little rusty, but that's why I wanted to paint this with you today, to show you that, you know, even artists, you know, if you get out of practice, then sometimes it can make things a little more difficult when you jump back on, but it's all right. We're doing this just for fun. It's not for a grade. Thank goodness. All right, so on my bluebonnet, I want to leave a couple areas that are lighter and then have some areas that are darker too. So I'm going to kind of round out. Now what I'm going to do also, I think, is take my white gel pen in the end, and I'm going to go through and add those little white parts back in. Right, you just want to kind of make your little petals, little rounded petals. And even if it doesn't look exactly like the bluebonnet in the photo, people are going to be able to tell that it's a bluebonnet, right? It's the only flower that really, well, maybe not the only, but one of few flowers that has this shape. Okay. All right, so again, some areas that are a little darker, a little lighter. I'm going to take a little bit of this purple. Very, very dark purple. It might look black to you. Oh, that's nice. That's a nice color. Nice. Whoop. A little too wet. It's okay. Like I said before, sometimes we just gotta let the color blend. So I'm going to add just a little bit of that here and there, like on the ends of the petals. That's where I can kind of see it in the photo, right? Just kind of touching the petals. And with this lesson, this might be a little more difficult, right? For you, or for if you have kiddos, might be a little more difficult for them. Sometimes it's more difficult for me to switch over to, you know, more realistic stuff, because I do all sorts of stuff with watercolor. I experiment with using it in all different ways, and so sometimes working from a photo or working realistically even throws me off a little bit, so not a big deal. As my background's dry and I'm liking the way it's looking. It's looking better than it did before. And there's a couple of like lighter weeds or things like that that are coming up over the background. That's where I might end up using colored pencils to add some of that in. Okay, so my stem is kind of a brownish, greenish, yellowish. Oh, look what I did there. It's okay. I'm gonna clean it up. I'm gonna clean it up. It's my palette. I can mess up my colors if I want to. I get on to the kids at school a lot of times. Don't mix the colors, but I do it too. I do it too. But with my kids this year, I gave them all their own watercolor set to keep. So if they mess up their watercolor palette, then they just got a messy watercolor palette. And they have no one to blame but themselves for having a messy palette. Alright, so there's my little Bluebonnet. And it almost looks like it has like little hints of like pink or fuchsia. So I might add that in. Also just kind of here and there. Okay. Honestly, yes, my Bluebonnet, as I look at it, it does look different than the photo. Yeah. That's all right. That's just my reference, because in the end, nobody's going to be looking at the photo and looking at my picture and trying to compare and contrast, right? They're just going to be looking at the painting, and they're going to be able to tell that it's a Bluebonnet. All right. Those of you that are still watching me, are you painting along with me? Do I still have you painting, or did you give up and stop and now you're just watching me? Because as always, I want to see your artwork when you're done with it. Yeah, I want to see what you created, good or bad, or you love it, you hate it. I don't care. I want to see it. I want to see what you made. All right, so I'm going to take some of this orange. Actually, let me mix it with some of this red. Maybe a little more orange. I'm trying to get that Indian paintbrush color because I want to put little hints of where those are going to be. Just kind of here and there. Right, and again, I'm just making kind of little blurs and blobs where my Indian paintbrushes are going to be. Yeah, I'm not drawing individual petals, individual flowers, just kind of a little burst of color. Okay, oh good. Avery says, I'm doing it, but painting is not my forte. It's fun though, I'm just not as skilled. Well, I'm glad you stuck with it, Avery. It's just fun. Hopefully you're just having fun doing it. Let's see, one over there. The little Indian paintbrush kind of over here. And right over there. And you got to keep in mind too, when you're painting, especially with watercolor, and this is something my students, high school students, struggle with. You can't judge it off of what it looks like right now, because there's still a whole lot of layers that are going to go into this, that need to go into this, and so you just have to be patient with it. Patience is the key when it comes to watercolor. Okay, so now for all this greenery, because I look at all this greenery and I think, holy moly, why did I choose to do this? That's a lot of leaves and a lot of green. Okay, so what I'm going to start out doing is I'm just going to start out by putting kind of blocks of green where I see lighter areas and darker areas. Again, being sure to kind of leave some areas lighter than others and leaving some white. Okay, and I feel like the more I paint, the more like impressionistic my work gets. I'm being very careful painting around my Indian paint brushes. I'm just leaving the white around them, right? Because they're still wet. Right, so it seems to get more like an impressionist. And I don't know if that's just because I've gotten tired of painting realistically. You know, I learned about artists from art history, especially like Pablo Picasso. You know, he used to be a very realistic artist, and then he got tired of doing that, and so he decided to paint in a different way and kind of started the Cubism movement and made a big influence on a lot of people and a lot of ways that people create art. So I'm using the yellow now. And so maybe, maybe that's why my style has changed a little bit, especially since high school. Oh my gosh, I would have never painted like this in high school. But, the more we try something, we figure out things that we like, things that we don't like. Realistic is fun, and I can do it, but it takes a lot of brain power, and I get maybe after having kids, maybe that's what it is. Maybe after having kids, I just don't have the brain capacity to paint as realistic as I used to, right? Very rarely do I have time to just spend hours and hours painting with an 8-year-old and an almost 4-year-old. So Riley's fine. Like right now, as I'm painting, he's in his room either building with Legos, or I told him he had 3 options. He could either build with Legos, he could work on his story that he's working on and writing, or he could make some art. So he's doing one of those 3 things, and I trust that he's still in there doing it, because he's just a pretty self-motivated kid. I know, Avery, you and I talked about that. Riley's pretty, he broke the mold when we had Riley, because he just kind of does what he's supposed to. My youngest, I love him to death, but he's so much more mischievous. And if I told him to go do that right now, he'd probably have the TV on and probably would not be doing what he's supposed to be doing right now. So maybe not, but that's my David. Still love him to death though. He's so lovable, has the cutest smile. That's how he gets me. He does wrong things, and then he just smiles at me. I love you, Mama. I love you, Mama. I love you too, you little squirt. All right, so kind of over here, I did some of the bigger leaves, like the shape of the leaves. And I'm still leaving a lot of white, right? Still got a lot of white going on. And I will continue to do that up until, the end of the artwork, until I have most of my layers on here that I want to have, right? And even when I'm done, I might still leave a little bit of white in there, just because sometimes it helps things to pop a little bit, gives a little bit of an outline. Yeah, especially when you have lots of things going on, lots of colors going on. A little bit of white can help. And if you look at my palette, I have like a big old mixture and blob of greens. And I just kind of let those colors blend and mix. And just use them. Yeah. So at this point, I'm using the photo as reference, but I'm not painting exactly what I see. Yeah. And again, that comes down to my personal belief that art, that's what's not working. That art should be, you should see the artist's hand in it if you're making a painting. I greatly admire realistic artists. But man, that takes a lot of brain power. I'm refilling my paintbrush right now. Oh geez, and I just spilled water. Nope, I'm gonna have to go to the sink. Spill water on myself again. I was wondering why my paintbrush wasn't picking up the paint off the palette. Well, it's because I'm empty. My brush is empty, so give me just a minute. I'm gonna go to the sink and refill. Give me like 30 seconds. There we go. All right, I'm back. Notice I got my Bob Ross shirt on today. He's painting the galaxy. One of my favorite shirts. I do have a lot of nerdy art shirts. I got two Bob Ross shirts. And then I also have my collection of office shirts. Those of you that are watching that know me know that I absolutely love The Office. Oh my goodness gracious, do I love The Office. So I have my Dunder Mifflin shirt, I have my Michael Scott Paper Company shirt. I have lots of office shirts. What's the other one? Oh, Shroot Farms Beats Motel. So I was on, I'm part of an office Facebook page, and they somebody put out that little potato. I don't know if you guys have seen that plain. It's like a plain kawaii cute looking potato, and it says, you know, turn this potato into a famous blank character. So it could be like a famous character from a TV show or a movie. And so it said turn it into your favorite office character. And so a lot of people were turning this potato into different characters from The Office. So I did 4 different ones. That's what I spent my morning doing, drawing potatoes. The radish in. Avery put, thank you. Avery's my other big Office fan. Like, she's the only one that understands the obsession. I have like 2 kids at the high school I work at that actually kind of get my Office references. The rest of them I say Office references and they look at me like I'm crazy. Or they say, yeah, I tried watching that, Miss Robson. I only got through like 2 episodes. I couldn't really get into it. Then I tell them, get out. No, not really. Well, I do tell them get out. I don't make them get out, though. I tell them you got to get past season 1, because season 1 is different than the rest of the seasons. And those of you that have watched The Office, I'm sure will definitely agree with that. It's just a little bit different. Adding these little touches of yellow that I see here and there. All right, so now I'm going to go through with some different greens. And again, if I look, it's still more blurred in the background than it is in the front. So in the front, I'm going to add a little more of this dark green that I see, right? You want to almost make it seem like you're looking through the greenery and you see the dark shadows kind of underneath here. But here in this kind of background area, well, middle ground area, there's just kind of a variety of these really light nice lime greens. Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of add in here, and I'm going to get real close to my Indian paint brushes because they're almost dry, and so I can paint right next to them. Remember, with watercolor, you do have to be patient and make sure that you're not painting too soon. Kind of around there, and I'm going to use that wet and wet technique, or wet on wet technique, where I can take some of these greens and I can put them like these darker greens and put them on top of these areas that are still wet, and they'll just kind of blur and blend and make a really nice texture and effect. Like I tell my students a lot of times, just you gotta figure out how to use the medium that you're working with to your advantage, right? Watercolor, you kind of have to embrace the blurring and the bleeding, right? That's what makes it look like watercolor versus acrylic paint or oil paint. Really, if I'm going to work really, really detailed, I'll use acrylic or oil paint because, you know, you can paint over things that you messed up on, and the color, you know, it'll just cover everything up. So that's why I tell people, you know, sometimes I have a love-hate relationship with watercolor, because you can't always do that with watercolor. Sometimes you just kind of have to let it be. All right, so I'm going to jump back to my background, and I do kind of jump around a lot. But that way, I like to do that because 1, that lets other areas dry, and 2, you're working on the whole picture, the whole package all at once, right? You're not just focused on one little area and then you got to go to the background and mess up the background. Oh, the whole thing's messed up. If you kind of work on one thing at a time or one area at a time, sometimes it can get discouraging. But if you kind of jump around, this is like a really dark green that I'm grabbing right here. Notice that blue. Oh, ooh, that's making a nice color. I should actually use that in the background here. If you jump around a little bit, then it helps you to kind of see the big picture of things, right? All right, now I'm going a lot darker here because I already have my base layer. And so anywhere like here, I kind of see some light coming through the trees. I'm going to leave that light. Okay. Now in my palette here, there is what looks to be a white watercolor. Technically, there's no white watercolor, but there is in this set. And I tried it, and it almost has the same consistency as like a white gel pen. So that's why I told you guys I'm going to use the gel pen in the end and put some of my white areas back in, or I might try that white watercolor. Might try that and see what I get. Okay, so I'm going to leave a couple of these areas in my background light, kind of where you see them in, let's see if I can get my finger going, like in my photo. There's kind of some lighter little spurts or things that are coming up from this foreground. So I might leave some of those areas just a little bit lighter so I can add those in. Right, but a lot of this right here in this foliage is quite dark. So I'm going in now, I'm adding my second layer, right, and I'm darkening up some of those areas. What I'm doing here also is called dry brush technique, right, where my brush isn't like super wet and soaked with paint or water, and that gives you a nice tree texture too. I'll do a little bit of that wet on wet technique in here. Like that. There we go. That looks a little bit better. It'll make everything else stand out a little bit more. And one thing I'm noticing about I don't know if it's the paint or the paper that I'm working on. Maybe I don't quite have enough water in here. I'm kind of getting some lines going on in some areas. I don't know if I'm liking that too much. I am trying a different type of paint today, so it's all right. We're just gonna try it out and we'll see what happens. I squirted the brush and added more water in there, so hopefully that didn't screw it up. I think that looks better though. Looks a little bit better. So my colors in the background are a little bit cooler, more bluish than what you see in the photo again, but I don't know. I kind of like the way it's looking. It's going along with my Bluebonnet nicely there. Maybe when I'm done with this original one, I'll have to send it to my cousin. I'll send it to my cousin Rachel. She can have the original since I used her photo. Make sure I take a picture of it or scan it first, because I do want to start making sure that any of my artwork that I do that I like and that turns out nice, that I put on my Etsy shop, right? So I can actually maybe eventually one day do this for a full-time job. That would be wonderful. I do enjoy teaching, but I think I enjoy making art a little bit more. I enjoy making art big time. But there's the term starving artist for a reason. You gotta find your niche, right? What makes you stand out from other artists. I don't know if I stand out from other artists so much. I do feel like I have a talent for teaching and teaching art, so I want to continue to do that. don't know if I'll always do that in public school or not. We'll see. See how things go. Honestly, I'm kind of enjoying just teaching online too. So I am going to try maybe later on this evening to stream live on YouTube. And I'm going to do a demonstration of one of the projects I'm going to have my high schoolers do or have assigned to them, right? And so I might post that too, you know, on Facebook if you, or excuse me, on YouTube if you want to join and just, you know, see what I'm doing. And you can give me a, you know, a hello or make sure that everything's working okay. So I'm going to start doing that tonight. I want to try to do that tonight. And then I do want to try to stream on Twitch probably Friday night. I don't know if I'll have any viewers. We'll see, but I'll give it a shot. I'll get some practice. So I don't know if anybody that's watching me now has a Twitch account or ever gets onto Twitch or knows somebody that does. Maybe you could let them know. You know, it's the same KR Art Studio is what I'll be streaming with on Twitch. Or if you have, you know, older kids or teens or preteens that, you know, like to watch other gamers on Twitch, maybe they would like to watch me do some art and do some art with me on Twitch too. I think that would be awesome. I'm just trying out different greens in here, and I'm kind of seeing what works well, right? All these are just very, very light. Lime greens, yellows, greens like that. Okay, and I'm just again kind of still keeping everything nice and blurry, nice and light, and then maybe I'll go through and make it more defined later. All right, but again, I'm kind of keeping with that impressionist style here, just kind of giving the impression, right, or the general idea of what's going on in the image. All right, let me grab some of this brown, really, really dark brown. I'm going to put that with this bluish green to make this really dark color. Very rarely will I use like straight black. I like to mix my own black just because it looks a little more natural. It's up to you though. Use what you got. You might not have all the colors that I have. I see that I've hit an hour with my video, which is okay. Those of you that have stuck with me and you're still painting, you're awesome. I really don't care what it looks like. You've stuck with me this long. Hopefully, again, this is relaxing for you. You know, we're doing a whole scene here today, a whole little landscape too. A lot of times when I'm starting out painting, or if I just want to paint on my own, I'll you know, paint just like one object or one image, and that's, you know, that's a little bit easier too than what we're doing here. Okay, so again, if it's a little, you know, a little bit intimidating, you are not alone. It can definitely be that way. Depending on how much you've painted in the past too, you know, or how much you currently paint. It makes a difference. See, now I'm kind of going in and filling in some of those white areas, like up next to my flowers. And so with this live stream, I don't know if I will completely finish this, because I feel like this this could take me like a whole nother hour to finish it, and I do need to go get David, my youngest, from daycare pretty soon. His daycare has still been open, so since we kind of been starting homeschooling this week and figuring out what I need to do for Klein. He's been going to daycare each day, so I might have to cut my stream pardon me, a little bit short. I'll paint for probably maybe another 5 or 10 minutes, and then maybe I'll hop on later on tonight to finish it up, or maybe that's what I'll do in my, maybe I'll try out Twitch. Maybe I'll try out Twitch tonight and stream on Twitch. So it is free to have a Twitch account. So if any of you guys are interested in looking at it, there's lots of different artists on it. I actually really enjoyed watching this artist on it. He was making these little potato figures. I think he 3D prints the little potatoes, and then he turns them into like different characters. So he was making like a whole army of potatoes. So it's really neat to go on there and just see, what other artists are creating too. So maybe I'll just jump on there tonight and finish up my landscape. And if you guys want to, continue on with me, then you can do that too. I will probably have I will have my colored pencils with me, because I'm definitely going to go through on top of like some of these leaves and areas that I want to define. I'm going to go back through with colored pencil, because I still feel like I'm really strong with colored pencil. Like watercolor, I'm pretty good with watercolor, but colored pencil, I feel like that's what I just have a lot of control with. And when I combine the colored pencil and the watercolor together, it just really works for me. It works well for me. And then I've even started combining, putting a little bit of the pen and ink too, like the black pen, into it, and that's turned out nice too. So it just depends on what you like to do, what you like best. I mean, like I've told you guys before, I very rarely will like make a watercolor that's just watercolor. Oops, that was still wet. It's okay. A little blurred flower there. A lot of times I will mix a lot of different mediums together, right? And I feel like that's okay. Yeah, it's okay to do that. Perfectly okay to do that. Alrighty, well, I think that's where I'm gonna stop for a little while. Again, everything is still kind of blurred and impressionistic, and I do I like the way it's starting to look personally, and hopefully you like the way that that your artwork is looking too. So I'm gonna pause on it for now, and then I'll go ahead and say it. I'm gonna get onto Twitch tonight. After my children have gone to sleep, maybe for like an hour or two, and I will finish up my artwork then. Yeah, and then if you want to join me, you can paint too, or you can just come and chat with me. All of that would be great. But I have a lot of areas. Another reason why I'm stopping right now is because I have a lot of areas that are really wet, and I don't want to keep adding until all those areas are dry, because I need to build up my layers and build up my colors a little bit more. Okay, so again, join me tonight on Twitch. I'm gonna put it in the comments section here. I will try to hop on by, let's say, 9:45. I'm more of a night owl, so if you're not going to be up by or at that time, then I apologize. But 9:45, put join me Twitch at 9:45 p.m. TDB. To finish Bluebonnet watercolor. And the nice thing about Twitch too, there we go, is you don't have to have your computer. You can actually watch it on I believe on Xbox you can stream Twitch, PlayStation possibly, I'm not sure. I don't quite know, but I know Xbox for sure you can do that. You can stream Twitch and you can watch it on there too. Okay, so I will jump on at 9:45 tonight because I don't have anything else going on, and I hope to see you guys there. And if you painted with me today and you want to paint with me tonight, let me know. And I think I would like to do a giveaway for maybe some art supplies, possibly for maybe this cool paintbrush. That's what I was thinking to do as a giveaway, is one of these nice paintbrushes for watercolor painting. And so I'll think about that for next week. We'll definitely have some sort of giveaway going on. And if Hobby Lobby is, well, we'll see. Because then a Tomball, if I can go by Tomball Hobby Lobby, I probably don't need to do that right now. Because I know Harris County is under shelter in place, I think. And Tomball is in Harris County. So I'll get back to you on the giveaway because I'd like to do something, but I'm kind of limited on where I can go for supplies right now. Yeah, with everything kind of be shutting down. And I need to not go out, right? We need to stay at home and make sure that I'm not getting sick and make sure that I'm not passing it on to anybody else too. So I'll get back to you on the giveaway, and we'll see what we can do. But hopefully some of you guys can join me on Twitch. Pass the word along. 9:45 tonight. KR Art Studio. If you just search for KR Art Studio, you should be able to find me, and maybe I'll see some of you guys there. Yeah, thank you so much for painting with me. Hopefully you had fun, and continue to, oh, Amazon. Okay, yeah. All right, Avery. Good idea. You're the queen of Amazon. I'll definitely look into that. Yeah, because I think they're still shipping pretty regularly. So all right, you guys have a good afternoon. I'll do two more live streams on Facebook for sure next week on Tuesday and Thursday. My office hours for school are from 2 to 3, and so that's when I need to make sure that I'm like ready to answer emails, or I might set up a Zoom meeting for some of my students at that time on some of those days. So I'll still do lessons on Tuesday and Thursday, but we're probably going to switch it back to the 3 o'clock time. Okay, so I'll make sure I post that on my KR Art Studio page. And if I don't see anybody on Twitch this weekend or tonight, then I will hopefully see you next Tuesday, and I'll let you know what we're going to be making. It'll probably be something a little more kid, well, I say kid friendly. This is kid friendly, but a little more simple so that younger viewers can watch it on Tuesday. Something similar to like the dinosaurs video or the Baby Yoda. So if you guys have suggestions, or if there's any kids watching that have suggestions of either a character or something you would like to learn how to draw, let me know, and I can set that up for you. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, have a good afternoon, and I will see you in spirit later on.